best rate that we can adopt in the city without an election. I gave you in here, I know the audience doesn't have it, but I gave you in here the notice of the tax hearing that I sent out, the worksheet that we've done and been approved by Tarrant County. You all had a chance to review that, I hope so. And then I did different tax rates and ran estimates on each and every different tax rate that you could possibly do in order to give you an idea of what it was. And like, for instance, between the 75 and the 73 is a difference of $84,000 in revenue. We do have hopes of some additional property coming in this next year. We'll see how that goes with that subdivision. I don't know if it'll be on the tax roll by then, though, or not. I couldn't possibly tell you. But I also figured if you did your spreadsheet...
When you do that, even though nothing's built on it yet, it should already change. It should be on our tax roll, period, because it is no longer...
Yeah, it's already on it, but I
know it's not going to be what it would be worth if there were houses on it, but it still should be a substantial...
It should be.
Increase, period.
And, like I say, if you got a chance to look at my spreadsheet for the revenue, I hope you would see that I ran calculations on it based off our voter approval rate, based off the no new revenue at the M&O tax rate. I also ran it off the proposal, which is an NNR maintenance and operation tax rate. This year, our properties went up 14% from the previous year. This year we had a 22 taxable value of $383,177, $177,812 was our taxable value of the entire city, which is up from $347 million that we had in the previous year. If you would interested in how it's figured on your own house, you take your value of your house and divide it by 100 times the tax rate, and that'll give you what yours will be. For instance, this year, an average homestead was $154,231. Last year it was $134,525. So at the 21 tax rate of $720,874, you'll be paying $1,111.81 in comparison to this year of $1,163.16 at the rate of .754168. Now, part of our tax rate is the debt rate, and Craig worked with me in calculating that out. We paid part of it out of the water fund. Part of the debt rate was figured out of our 2021 tax levy, and also a portion of our, I believe it was our sewer bond, wasn't it? Yeah, a portion of our sewer bond. And in doing so, we came out with a tax rate of, debt rate, I'm sorry, of .101169. Last year, if you'll remember, it was like .0266, and the reason it was that way last year was because it was interest only. This year, it's interest and principal factored into that. So that's why it's .10. That is where we take the voter approved rate and we add the debt rate to it, and that's where we come up with the tax rate that we're presenting to you tonight.
So just to clarify on that for a second, without the debt rate, then the no new revenue rate would have went down dramatically.
Yeah, .65299.
From 72 to 65. big chunk, which reflects the increased appreciation of the properties, right?
Right.
But that's being matched to some degree by the debt rate being added on to that, which takes us back to just a bit more than the last year's actual rate.
Yeah, because you have $402,000 in debt rate that will come out of the taxes you collect.
And the debt rate is primarily to fund the street improvements.
Primarily, but there is a portion we have in there of the sewer fund. We were able to do all of it. If you have another place to take it out, you don't have to consider it, even though it is pledged by ad valorem tax. You can pay it somewhere else. You don't have to incorporate it, and that's what Craig and I did together, so we wouldn't have to do that. Otherwise, it was up around $600,000, so we had to do something to get it down.
Okay.
And we had the money in the water fund to do all of it, most of it, not all
But
of
is
it.
that an annual,
Yes, sir, that's an end.
and we be able to do that each year?
Yes, sir. I mean, under the amortization, it'll be a little different one to Craig, but pretty well the same.
The way it's set up now is you have your two water board loans for your utility system.
Right.
One of those, 100% of it is serviced by your utility fund. The other one, 50% is serviced by utility fund. The other 50 is in the INS levy. Then you have the streets that we have in INS levy, and then we have the $1.7 million or $1.5 million and
$1.7
$1.7
million.
million, $1.7 million of emergency borrowing we're going to use to. But that is interest only for a few years, so it doesn't really move the needle in terms of the tax rate. So the bulk of the INS levy is for the street bonds and then 50% of one of your utility rates. The objective there would clearly to be, as soon as you can, you move all of, anything funded to your utility system should be paid from your utility system. Right now, your utility system can't afford 100% of both issues, so we move 50% to a tax fund to balance it.
And would you like to get up and explain the 1.7?
As Marvin indicated, you have two elements to your tax rate. Your .75 is made up of your maintenance and operations rate, which is what runs your city. That's subject to rollback. The INS levy, which is for debt, is not subject to rollback. So whatever your debt is every year, it goes on the tax roll with whatever amount that is. So those two things taken together then equal the .75 that you're considering tonight. A couple of observations as you consider your budget and these tax rates. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. 3 or 4 years ago, you had a volunteer fire department. In the last 3 years, you brought on an entire fire department into the city budget. Has the legislature been kind enough to you to allow you to increase your revenue over that period of time to match that? Well, I don't think so. So I say that because you dipped into your fund balance to do all those things. And so as we go out to borrow money again, people ask, what's the plan to get the general fund in balance again? We know you've been out of balance. We explained that to them with the fire department and adding them and that's a lot of money that the city had to absorb into their M&O rate. None of that goes on the INS side. So that was why we had to move 50% of that one debt obligation to INS, because we just couldn't support it out of M&O any longer. So that's all to say that we have some water plant issues that we're also addressing. You've seen that. I was in front of the council a month ago talking about a tax note that we want to issue to fund those improvements. I believe your council, city council, outside council is pursuing some action there against the firm that designed it and engineered it. And so hopefully we'll recover some of that and use that to pay down this obligation. So I don't know if I